why does AI matter? I'm just going to throw up some pictures here. NVIDIA is now the third largest company in the US. At one point, it had a $3 trillion market cap. How did some graphics card company from nerds from the early 2000s become the third largest company, right? Well, that's exactly why. It's the graphics cards. It's their GPUs, the graphical processing units. Turns out they're much better than CPUs at training AI systems. So this kind of shows that AI is a really big deal in our economy today. In fact, all 5 of these companies and the top 5 largest companies in the US are all developing their own proprietary AI models. DeepSeek, how many people have heard of DeepSeek? The news, maybe? Yeah, so this was a Chinese model. It came out around January. It basically showed, oh shoot, we thought China was 2 years behind us. Now they're maybe 3 to 6 months behind us in the AI sort of arms race. So you can see NVIDIA stock kind of tanked in January there. It's been down like 30% since January. This was something that happened. Google basically tried to incorporate some DEI into its image generation, so we can ask for a founding father, right? It would give something that was like historically inaccurate. Of course, there was like some backlash about this, but this kind of goes talk about like bias in AI. Depends on who makes it, right? You're going to have some sort of values encoded in it. Protests. So this one says stop Skynet before it draws us all. This was an artist protest because they were using the copyrighted material from art to basically train these models to reproduce, in the style of artists. But also the idea, hey, if this is really Skynet, that's kind of spooky. I don't know if you've seen T2, but it doesn't end well, right, for the humans. Project Stargate. So the day after President Trump's inauguration, Sam Altman, the man on the right there, the CEO of OpenAI, the company that makes ChatGPT, went to the Oval Office and basically announced that they're going to be spending $500 billion over the next few years to build data centers starting in Texas that are going to be training the next generation of ChatGPT, GPT-5, GPT-6, and so on. And then, AI job automation, we talked about this a little bit. I think this is going to be a huge cultural flashpoint. It already is. AI is going to come for our jobs. Okay. So what exactly is a large language model? I made this chart, so it's kind of crazy. I don't want to get really into the details. I'd be happy to talk the nerd stuff later. But basically, on the right, I went to a hunt test for the Hunter Retriever Club a few weeks ago in Illinois with my buddy. He's got like a black lab named Moose. So I had no idea about that world, but I got to see a little bit more about it. So you start off with a puppy, right? And they're like, they're bred from like a good sire or whatever. Like they have good genes. They have good joints. They have good hunting instinct. Then you teach them to sit. You teach them to fetch it up. And that's the first level in the hunting retriever club is started. So they can basically get a duck and bring it back to you. Then next is seasoned, all right? They don't maybe know where the duck is, and then you blow your little whistle, they look at you, you cast them out, and then they go in that direction and get the duck, right? So now you are working. They're kind of like your assistant in this hunt. Finished, that dog knows you well. Like it can almost anticipate your commands, and you've worked with it for a long time. And then the grand, I just made that image there with a dog with like 20 ducks in its mouth. But that's like their like annual championship. And that's like, the grand. So that's like where like the best dogs go. So how does that relate to large language models, which are what these GPT things are? By the way, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. It's a type of neural network. So it starts with data, right? That's like your good dog. That's like basically every Wikipedia article, every Craigslist ad, every movie script, every book in the world is fed into this thing, terabytes of just text data. And it starts to pre-train. It's unsupervised in this stage, right? There's no one controlling it. It's learning patterns between this data. It's building a neural network, kind of like the neurons in your brain make connections between things. So what you get is a base model, which is basically just fancy autocomplete. And all it's doing is predicting the next word. So if I say, I want to go to it's going to predict the next word. It says, well, store is 80% likely based on what I know. Pizza is like 2% likely. So I'm going to go with store in this case. And it ranks literally every single word in the dictionary. It gives it a probability. So that's kind of how these things work. They seem super smart, like they know what you're saying, but they're only predicting the next word in a sentence, just one word at a time. But you put all the text in the entire world into it, it gets kind of smart. Then comes post-training, right? So basically they teach it how to be a helpful, harmless, honest assistant. So that's when you get CamoGPT. That's like what that is. When ChatGPT first came out, it was essentially this sort of consumer fine-tuned base model. And then lastly, you get a reasoning model. And the first reasoning model came out in September of 2024. OpenAI released it. And since then, Google, DeepSeek, XAI, which is Elon Musk's company, Meta hasn't released one yet. No, sorry, they just did. Anthropic, those are like the big 5 labs, the frontier AI labs that are actually making these models. They have released reasoning models, and basically these are taught, the reasoning models create a logical scaffold of how they're going to answer your question before they answer it. Just kind of like you might make like a plan, or write an outline for an essay before you actually just start writing. And that's kind of the difference between the fine-tuned original ChatGPT models and these newer reasoning models that are a bit smarter, but they take a little bit more time to think. So I wouldn't worry too much about the differences between the models, but this is just a little bit of an insight on how these models are trained. Similar to the dogs, they basically learn the tasks after learning the basic commands, and they practice them again and again through reinforcement learning until they get really good and can sort of reason and work with you better. Okay. This is another why it matters. This is a memo from the CEO of Shopify, came out a few weeks ago. But basically, they're going to add AI questions to their annual performance reviews, like how are you using AI? Learning is self-directed, but share what you learned. Kind of what Major Scomp said. This is all the self-development domain. No one's going to teach you how to use AI. Unfortunately, we just don't have the structure for that yet. And then lastly, at Shopify, at least, before you ask for more headcount or resources, they're going to say, hey, can you do this job with AI? I think that we're seeing that a lot in the world of civilian business, and we might see that in the Army as well. So just know that this is kind of the expectation. Try AI first, and maybe don't ask for more resources if you can do it with AI. Okay, so these are large language models that you can access today. Now, the DoD doesn't actually develop these models. They don't do the training, but they do serve them. So they keep them on either a NIPR or SIPR server, which basically doesn't go back to that home company. They basically store the model on a secure server so you can access it. So CamoGPT, right now, they're not taking new accounts. I'm in contact with the head of the AI2C that develops it out of Philadelphia, and I'm basically going to push out as soon as they start taking new accounts. But if you have an account already, you can use it. NIPR GPT's been down the last few days, but that's also a really good source as well. Nice thing about CamoGPT is that once you create an account, you automatically get an account on the high side with the same capabilities. And this is one of the only models that actually does that. So that's really important to know. These are the commercial large language models that work on our NIPR computers. So ChatGPT, Google Gemini, and then X's Grok. They all work, and they're all roughly pretty similar. It's almost month by month which model's better to use. For the purposes of this brief, I'm going to be focusing on CamoGPT and ChatGPT as the two major DoD and commercial large language models. So which one should you use? So this is a ranking of intelligence from most intelligent to least intelligent as of yesterday of what's out there. O4 Mini High, I'm sorry, that's actually not free. The 5th one down is. So you can get the 5th most intelligent model in the world right now for free through OpenAI, which is pretty crazy. But O4 Mini came out 3 days ago. Gemini 2.5 Pro was released about 2 weeks ago. And you can actually use that for free through a Google account. O3 is paid. Grok 3 Mini Reasoning High, that's actually free as well. If you go to grok.com. So a lot of these are available, but they're all commercial. The DoD, if you look on the right, they use an open source model, so a free model from Google. And it looks like it's not smart. It actually is. It's just these ones on the left are really smart. But that is kind of what you can get when you use a DoD provided LLM. Again, this is safe. These are not you can't put CUI in there, but they are definitely smarter, and I recommend using them for your personal use. Just kind of a comparison, breaking down the DoD and then commercial LLMs. So again, you cannot put any CUI into a commercial LLM. Both are free. Both work with file uploads. So you can upload a document, a PDF, a Word doc. I will say CamoGPT is a little clunky. It takes a day or two to upload your document because they have to queue it. It's not ideal. Both offer workspaces. So if you want to basically invite your teammates to a workspace, you guys can have basically a shared set of documents that you use on there, which is really good for knowledge sharing. Only ChatGPT supports voice input, so you can actually have a conversation. It also does video input, so it's almost like a FaceTime with the AI, which is weird, but you can point it at something hey, I don't know how to use a photocopier in the library. I used that the other day. And it's oh, push this button here. It can see what you see. It's pretty helpful. DoD LLMs, DoD LLMs do not have up-to-date information on the internet unless you hook them up to a tool, while commercial LLMs are able to search, kind of like Google, and pull you up-to-date information. And then this is sort of a new feature, deep research, that I'll demo later, but only commercial LLMs have that for now. This is just kind of what you can expect. So just some policy guardrails for commercial models. Do not put any like unit information, names, emails. Just treat everything you put in there as if it were public, which isn't true, but it's a good kind of way to operate. Always turn off the model improvement in the settings, because basically if you turn that off, that company can't train using your data to make its model smarter. Basically, that data stays private to you. And then there's like a temporary chat, kind of like an incognito mode on most of these major models. Basically, that data is deleted within 30 days from that company's server, allegedly. Some dangers, right? We all know the dangers. Hallucination, like this lawyer used ChatGPT, it made up fake citations, now he's getting disbarred. Like, don't be lazy, okay? Like, still know how to write an NCOAR. This isn't for you to turn your brain off. I think the people that turn their brain off and use LLMs are going to fail, while those that use it, like in addition to the expertise they've already gained, are going to succeed. And that's kind of what we're seeing. Sycophancy, so the model is going to, basically it's trained to get you to like it. And developers are trying to avoid this, but it's going to say, oh my gosh, you want to breach with only 2 guys? This is a great idea. Like, it'll kind of hype up your ideas. So ask you to be critical of your ideas, and then it might actually give you some real advice. And then it reduces creativity, right? So we talked about how it works. It's the statistical average of all the data. So it's going to bring all your ideas closer to that mean of that bell curve distribution. So if you're trying to think crazy, creative thoughts, it can help if you prompt it that way. Like, hey, think of something out of the box, but it's going to turn you into more of like a basic person if you just use it for everything. So just a heads up. All right, I'm going to do the first demo here. So this product is called NotebookLM. It's excellent for knowledge management. It is free to use. It requires a Google account. So if you have one, awesome. If you have a Gmail, you can use it. You can upload sources. You can chat with those sources. So I'll just give you a quick demo of how it goes. So this is a NotebookLM right here. I uploaded, basically, I had to investigate a flipple where like some people broke some 249s, and I uploaded AR735-5, which is basically how you do a flipple. And then I clicked discover, and I typed in, hey, I want to do a flipple, and it found all these documents online and added them to my sources. So I think I have like 7 sources here. So what's cool is that I can kind of chat with this. So I can say, how do I start a flipple as an IO? So it's going to think for a little bit, but then it's going to actually do what's called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, which is, it searches the sources that I put on there, or that I uploaded, and it's going to give me specific citations to those sources in response to my question. So this is great for doctrine. You do not initiate the flipple process itself. It's initiated by others. The process of initiating a flipple, okay, and then it gives you a little link here that shows exactly where it found it, and then you can come back to sources after you click it, and it'll actually take you to where in the document that it found it, which is really helpful. And then you can ask follow-up questions and things like that here. One of my favorite features is that you can make an audio overview, which is basically like a podcast. And so for this example, I asked it, I'm a company commander. I'm missing 7 249s during my change of command inventories. The BC just initiated a flipple. I didn't sign them down to anyone. They're still in my property book. What should I expect the flipple to look like, and how much must I be liable for? So I'm just going to play you the first like 45 seconds of the podcast that generated in about 2 minutes.
Okay, let's unpack this. 7 M249s gone, just vanished during a change of command inventory.
Yeah, that's a nightmare scenario.
And they're still on your property book, the commander's property book, but no signed hand receipts anywhere.
Oof, that complicates things.
And now, the battalion commanders initiated a financial liability investigation of property loss.
Yeah.
A flipple. Right?
Exactly, a flipple.
Because honestly, that situation probably feels like your career just a backflip and landed you in a whole heap of trouble.
That's precisely the situation we're diving into today.
Yeah.
We heard from a listener, a company commander, facing this exact thing. The flipple is rolling. And the big questions are, what's this actually going to look like?
And how?
So from there, it'll actually dive into like the doctrine that I fed it. But this is great. Like if you have like, hundreds of pages of FM3-0 and you have a specific question or use case, you can just go for a drive, put on this podcast, and it'll break it down in a way that our monkey brains can understand a little bit better than whoever wrote doctrine. So,
while you weep over your lost career.
yeah, well, yeah. At this point, you might start to ask you how to read Fred. Yeah. So, yeah. Jeez. Okay. So this is a great tool. It's notebooklm.google.com. There's a link in here. You can just Google it. But I use this like a lot just for like homework, study projects, stuff I'm interested in. Like you can upload like YouTube transcripts. Just put the link in there. It'll take you like if you have like a 3-hour YouTube video, it'll take the transcript of that. Voice memos from your phone. You can upload. So it can handle pretty much any document. Super useful. All right. Next is how to write a SITREP using CamoGPT. So I did this back in 22 when ChatGPT first came out. I made a thing called SITREP GPT and sent it to my commander. I'm like, sir, I just solved your problem. So anyway, this is a wall of text. Don't really worry about the wall of text right now, but basically this is a prompt that I wrote and it says, hey, you're a professional military SITREP writer for DECO 554. You take raw information and format it into the required SITREP style. I gave it some instructions. I didn't actually give it the format in this prompt. What you do is just take last week's SITREP and just paste it there so it can use that as an example. You can just keep it there. I pasted the storyboard text in there as well from like the PowerPoint slides with the 3-slider we sent up. And then context, hey, DECO 554, we're an engineer company located in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. You can say, hey, Colonel Cox likes active language, something like that, or, whatever your senior rater likes. And final reminder, hey, make sure you think step by step, use professional language. So, all right. The third demo I want to show you briefly is deep research. Again, this is a newer tool, but honestly, I kind of love this tool. So on the bottom, Google provides it for free, Perplexity and Grok, and actually as of yesterday, ChatGPT does provide this for free as well. So what this does, it basically gives you a deeply researched report. You're going to say, hey, research this for me. It's going to go off for anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes, or really anywhere from 2 to 20 minutes, depending on what server you use. It's going to give you anywhere like a 20-page report with around 200 sources at the most. And then with Gemini, you can export this to a Google Doc, download it, or like even make it into a podcast, which is really nice too. So I'll just pull up something I did on Gemini yesterday. So I said, I'm doing a presentation on AI tools and best practices, and then I literally pasted in like all my notes of like just like the random things I was thinking about. And then I pasted in that prompt example, and it said, okay, here's a research plan. So it kind of comes up with this plan, and I click start research. And about, 10 minutes later, it gave me a full report. So I can open it up here. And the nice thing about this is that the report is also has like options to learn more. I downloaded this to a Google Doc and then downloaded it as like a Word doc. So you can see it's a 24-page report. It's got like charts in here about like, hey, here's like the different services. Here's like the different level that they're approved to use. Here's like the model that they're using. And again, this was just based off my like rough notes. And then the cool thing is it's all footnoted and it has a bunch of links that you can go to. So again, this is around 10 minutes and this is free. You can use this for like, hey, give me the consumer reports for like this new Toyota I'm trying to buy. And it's going to go and compare. Like you can use it for anything, Hey, do a lit review for this paper I'm trying to do. Hey, search this doctrine. Like something I used it for was like, I had to like upgrade our facility to a controlled storage or for open storage for classified material when I was in Hawaii. So I'm like, hey, here's the PDF of this entire like AR. Here's the building I'm in. What do I need to do specifically to my building? And it pulled out like the relevant parts for that. And then I was able to use that and put it in like a construction estimate. So saved me like a week's worth of time. I did the whole thing in like 3 hours. Okay. So deep research, really great tool. It's provided for free on all major LLMs. Some other use cases I've done. So like you're at an AR, you just take some random, notes in your green notebook and you close it and it stays that way forever. Or you can kind of read those notes. So like on the ChatGPT app, it has one of the best in class dictation features. If you get it on your iPhone or Android, so you say, hey, I'm just reading my notes here, blah, 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 blah. Format this into a 1-page after action review with sustains, improves, lessons learned. And that's like really helpful. And you can email that to yourself and just kind of have that for a record. SOP development. Hey, see if this SOP I just wrote for my company is in line with my BC's policy and with doctrine, for like my maintenance SOP, for example. Awards, evals, please don't use this for the final draft of your award or NCOER. It drove my old first sergeant crazy. He's like, oh, they use Skynet on this one again. But it's really good. Here's like a prompt for writing an AAM citation. It works really well. It gets you a great first draft. And DMP works for COA Dev. DevCom, they've experimented with this, and they're like, hey, ChatGPT, or not ChatGPT, a custom version of ChatGPT with humans performs better than any other AI. So I guess the point is AI by itself isn't going to get you there, but AI with your feedback and saying, hey, no, tweak this, tweak that, is going to perform better than humans or AI could. Yeah. Another use case I did, so I did monthly counselings with my squad leaders when I was a PL, and I basically just fed them all in here. I'm like, hey, look for just longitudinal trends over time for specific people, but then also just give me feedback. And so then this is like actually what it said. It's like, hey, some general trends over time, like the last one, op tempo. Hey, several squad leaders have noticed issues with op tempo. There's a delicate balance to be found here to keep the pace of operations optimal for efficiency without overtaxing your team. Or I didn't put this in here, but for the specific people, it's like, hey, Sergeant Cornelio has mentioned like 3 months in a row that he hasn't been home for like dinner with his wife at a regular time. And then like, oh, maybe I didn't know this, but it's able to help point those things out. So LLMs are great for like metadata of language, right? We have like in the Army, we're really good at Excel sheets and numbers, but LLMs are really good at taking just like documents and words and things that we can't really quantify and really helping us synthesize them down to a way that we can have actionable insight or actionable intel on our documents. This is something I did recently. So I did this on the ChatGPT app on my phone. I just took a picture outside battalion, and this is really in a like unprofessional, I apologize, but I just talked to it and I said, hey, create a sick-ass hype poster for the 554 Engineer Battalion incorporating a dragon and all that. It gave me that one, and I said, okay, not bad, I like it. Maybe take away the combat engineers and put the straight ahead at the bottom. And then it gave me this one on the right, and I printed it out and hung it up in the bathroom because like I think it looked cool. And then you can also do like, hey, make a coin design with this. It makes a really good mock-up. You send that to DoD Coins. They actually do a professional mock-up, and like what may have taken you a back and forth with a graphic designer in Pakistan, which I've done before, now like takes you like 15 minutes to do. So this is on ChatGPT. Their image generator is best in class. It does take about a minute to generate a photo, but I highly recommend using this. It can also like edit your photos and make you look like much better, or turn you into like anime style. So that's also fun too. Okay, so let's talk about best practices of prompting, right? So any old fool can go in and talk to ChatGPT, and luckily ChatGPT is made for any old fool. But if you're going to be a pro user, there are some best practices. So on the left here is from the ChatGPT cookbook. This is basically how they recommend prompting. On the right, the co-founder of ChatGPT like reposted this photo like a few weeks ago. So both are good. But if you look on the right, you give it a goal, you ask it how, or you tell it how you want it to return that format to you. Maybe some warnings or caveats about like, hey, don't go down this rabbit hole, or please use this kind of language. And then a context dump, just like anything it needs to know, just whole text of emails, things like that. And that's like a pretty good prompt. On the left, you can see I formatted this in Markdown. Markdown is just like using hashtags to make headers. You don't have to use that, but the AI does understand this well. If you know XML, basically just like saying, like, example starts here, put your example, end example, just to kind of help like bracket so the model knows what it's reading. Again, you don't have to do that. You can talk to it in natural language. It's made that way. But if you have like a recurring prompt to use every week, I do recommend formatting it in a more structured way. But if you're just using it every day, of course, just talk to it informally. So role, you are a helpful SITREP writer. Instructions, you can give subcategories, reasoning steps. Okay, 1, make sure none of the dates conflict. 2, calendar the items, things like that. The output format, you can give examples, context, right? So, hey, my senior rater really likes this. I live here and I do this for a living. And then final instructions, usually if you ask it to think step by step, it'll give you a better answer. I don't know why, that just is that way. Okay, so best practices. Some more best practices for prompting. Every commercial LLM has some sort of custom instructions, and even the DoD ones that do as well. So you can just put some information about yourself. So this is what I did for myself. And I'm like, hey, what traits should it have? I want it to be friendly yet honest. Have a Christian leaning. Avoid wordiness, except when doing a deep dive. I want you to be witty. I want you to talk like Gen Z. I don't want you to talk like Gen Z. You can kind of customize how these models respond to you. Remember this. So commercial LLMs all have a memory feature. So you can say, hey, remember what I just told you. And it's going to store that in its memory bank. And you can delete that memory later if you want. But it's going to say, oh, hey, Andrew's training for a marathon. Colonel Cox has 2 kids, and they're a handful. It can remember certain things, which is helpful. And then projects and workspaces, we kind of talked about this, but that's good. All commercial LLMs have this. Also, CamoGPT has this as well. NotebookLM does. It's a little clunky, but if you want to invite your coworkers to your space that you have shared documents or shared instructions on, it's pretty helpful. I did this. So my fiance, she works at a nonprofit. I kind of set one up for them. I basically uploaded a bunch of their emails. I uploaded their mission statement, a bunch of the past projects they did. So now it's basically a writing guide that helps their nonprofit stay on brand for whatever products they have to produce. So this is something that you can do. Okay, so this is my money slide. Okay, so this is Lieutenant Bullis's unofficial official AI toolkit. What I think, as a minimum, every leader in the Army should have. So first off, I would go ahead and bookmark these on your Nipper laptop. CamoGPT or NotebookLM. Again, they're not giving out accounts right now, but if you have one, awesome. And if not, keep trying that link. Commercial LLM, ChatGPT and Gemini. Honestly, I'll just get both of them. Just make a free account. You don't have to pay for it. I pay $20 a month for ChatGPT. At one point, I paid $200 a month. That was just for 1 month. I just needed to try out the new feature. So obviously, I'm a huge nerd, but I think that's one of the best $20 I spend. Second to Spotify every month, and my tithe. NotebookLM, right? So that is a great tool. We talked about that. Great for doctrine. I didn't talk about these, but Vantage. So I was over at IndoPACOM, Palantir. They make Maven, all these new COP things. But Palantir makes Vantage. They have I don't know. Have you guys used that? Yeah. It has the commander's risk reduction tool on there. But basically Palantir does a great job at fusing together data sources. And this is where we struggle as a military, right? We have all our data in these siloed bins. So I would just at least get comfortable using some sort of Palantir or like Vantage, because I think that is the future. And they have a bunch of contracts with the DoD. Then Power BI by Microsoft. My old XO did this, right? You can just pull proactively from a spreadsheet. That way you don't have to spend an hour before every training meeting going through and editing Arial bold 12 or whatever on your slides, and just automatically format those charts and put them into a PowerPoint for you. So that's it's not really AI, but it's a really helpful automation thing. On your personal cell phone, I get the ChatGPT app, just make a free account, but that's so helpful. You can have live conversations with it. I mentioned the little FaceTime feature. It's pretty wild. The personal laptop. So on the Mac and Windows, you can download ChatGPT to your as an app, and from there you can have the conversations with it. If you're typing in your Notes app, you can actually say, so it can read what's in your Notes app. It can take screenshots on your screen, and you could be like, hey, how do I do this on this website? So it's pretty helpful. Otter AI or Granola AI. This is basically meeting transcription. So if you're on a call or whatever, it'll take a transcription. Then whatever notes you have, it'll use AI to enhance those notes from what was in the meeting, and then it can draft follow-up emails. So if you're doing anything personally, any schoolwork or any LinkedIn meetings or anything like that, it's really helpful. And then LM Studio, you can get that for Windows or Mac. It's free. And basically, so I have it on my personal computer, and I downloaded within 3 gigabytes. I downloaded Gemma, an open source model from Google. So even if I'm on a plane or I'm in the field, I can actually run that model locally on my laptop and get generative AI wherever you are. So that's nice. So if you're ever in a Wi-Fi denied environment or something like that, you can still have a model. It's not going to be the best, but it's good enough for most of your daily, definitely for your admin needs, even though it doesn't have access to the internet. So yeah, this is, again, this is a recommendation, but this is just what I use and I found to be very helpful. Okay, this is my closing slide. This is my I'm gonna scare you slide, or try to. This is from a paper in 2014 by Leopold Aschenbrenner. Leopold Aschenbrenner was the valedictorian of Columbia. He graduated at 19 years old. He went to go work for OpenAI, got fired because he was like too concerned with safety, pretty much. And he wrote this like 160-page paper. I highly recommend you go read it. Situational Awareness.ai. This is kind of what turned me on to the whole thing. Basically, he's like, hey, we're going to hit an intelligence explosion, and there's going to be no choice but for the government to do a Manhattan Project, lock down the labs, put all this in a skiff, and basically have a full-on race with China to develop artificial superintelligence. If that sounds scary in sci-fi, that's because it is scary in sci-fi. But there's a lot of sci-fi that's become real recently. So if you look at this chart here, in like 2018, GPT-2, right? That wasn't ChatGPT when it first came out was GPT 3.5. So it was smarter, right? But that was like preschool level. 2019, we had GPT-3 elementary school level. At GPT-4, that was like smart high school level. That's like a couple years ago. Today, we have PhD level intelligence with our latest models. Automated Alec Radford, he's a machine learning or an AI developer. So basically, at some point, these models are going to get good enough to improve themselves. Once they can start recursively self-improving, intelligence explosion, we develop superintelligence. The earliest estimate for that is 2028. The latest one I've heard is 2050, but it's going to happen. And artificial general intelligence is going to be here. Again, earliest I've heard is 2027. Latest I've heard is 2035. So artificial general intelligence is probably like the Alec Radford level, and then superintelligence is higher than that, like 100x that. So what does that mean? One, probably in a few years, AI is going to be better at doing all of our jobs better than us, besides the human element. But human element, honestly, like, isn't really that great when you can look at especially like, oh, these things can write better than I can now. They can even do research better than I can now. So what does that like mean for us? One, go like be willing to adapt with the times. Also, like, I don't know what like life in the age of superintelligence or of artificial general intelligence, like there's a lot of questions. It's kind of an unsolved problem. But be willing to adapt, be willing to upskill, be willing to flex. Still be human, like do what you love, spend time with your loved ones and families. Maybe like get some rice and bottled water in case things go south. But that's kind of like the doomer perspective. But I would say just have situational awareness, right? Read the news, understand where these things are going. Be aware of the times and how it affects you, and be an early adopter. Because I think people with these skills who have the background knowledge and have the expertise and have critical thinking are going to perform better than people without these skills. And do yourself a favor and spread the knowledge too, like the Shopify memo, right? It's self-learning, but we want to share what we've learned. So I'm trying to share what I've learned with you to help us all like rise and kind of like, a rising tide raises all boats. So this was my scary chart. Are there any questions?